Welcome to this video blog that I call Fulfilling the Vision. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about our plan of implementing this for a worldwide impact and worldwide program. Now, one of the visions that I created when I created my TED Talk on this in 2016 is that I created the vision to significantly reduce the deaths from Alzheimer's worldwide in the next 5 years. Now, I know that's a pretty audacious vision, but let me share with you some of the assumptions and the numbers, and then give you an idea of how we actually want to pull this off, what our ideas of implementation are. Unfortunately, we have a worldwide organization behind us with the Upledger Institute that have the trained practitioners and people that I can train in turn that can train the public. So we have a way that it's scalable and we can roll this out very, very quickly. So that's important to know, that we have a practical structure already in place to deliver what we have available. So some of the assumptions, as you know, these numbers, there's currently about 5.4 million people diagnosed with Alzheimer's in the US. And of course, that number is expected to double or triple in the next 10 to 15 years. And there's about 44 million people worldwide that have this disease. Also, this number is expected to double or triple in the next 10 to 15 years. Now, Alzheimer's is currently known, and the American Alzheimer's Association will tell you this as well, that Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. Now, that number is based on what we've recorded as deaths from this disease. That breaks out to about 84,000 deaths per year. However, Rush Hospital in 2014 did some further research on this. They delved more deeply into the death records. And they found indeed, which for any of you that have had relatives that have suffered from this, including my own, you know this, is that often what people die of is not Alzheimer's or a brain problem per se, but secondary effects like respiratory and cardiac problems. So when Rush Hospital actually looked at the death records, which are not really all that well kept, they found that indeed that's what most people died of, but they weren't recorded as that cause per se. So if you look at the actual cause that people succumb to Alzheimer's over time, I call it the long, slow walk to the grave. It's about 500,000 people, or about 500,000 people a year. So if you look at that figure and correct the numbers, we actually see that Alzheimer's at 500,000 deaths a year would be the 3rd leading cause of death. So that's pretty significant to look at that. So I'm looking at that figure of about 500,000 deaths per year. Then, excuse me, I'm looking at the timeline, which occurs over time. And again, when someone is stricken with Alzheimer's, from the time they're maybe at early risk to early stage to mid stage to late stage, that can take many, many years, typically 8 to 10 years. Now, some people, they succumb a lot more quickly. Some people, they last a lot longer. But eventually, what happens, because of some of the mechanisms of the disease process we'll discuss in later blocks, they succumb to cardiac respiratory distress very often. So that's over a long, long timeline. And my thinking is if we can intervene starting right now in that timeline, then we're going to start to see the impact, perhaps not immediately, but within 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And instead of 500,000 people dropping off the cliff, so to speak, maybe then we'll only see 80%. So what I mean by significantly reduce the deaths from Alzheimer's worldwide is I'm just looking to say even 20% of lives we could save and people not succumbing on a yearly basis. So that would mean, on the basis of 500,000 people a year dying of Alzheimer's in the US, we might impact 100,000 people and save 100,000 lives per year, which is not insignificant. And if you look at 44 million people worldwide and the number of people that may die from that over time, we could be close to hundreds of thousands or 1 million people a year worldwide whose lives we can save. So that's not an insignificant thing. So the delivery system, here's another aspect of this. Because we have trained craniosacral therapists in over 57 countries worldwide, we have 57 affiliates, we have a delivery mechanism to quickly train people and allow people that are even in the caregiver or layperson stage to receive this information. We have created a 2-day course called CranioSacral Therapy, Applications for Dementia and Applications for Prevention. So over 2 brief days, people can learn the basic techniques called the still point, cranial pumping, and some other techniques that we have found as we're continuing our research seems to have a significant impact in preventing this disease. So to quote Jack Canfield, that interviewed me a couple of years ago, author, of course, of Chicken Soup of the Soul, and he sold about 500 million, that's like 500 million, 500 million books worldwide. So he has some idea of what it takes to disseminate through a channel, books as he's done with his Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And what he commented on, he says, Mike, what I like about what you're doing is, he says, there's 3 things. That first of all, your technique is easily learned. Secondly, it's affordable. And thirdly, it's scalable, which is what I'm talking about, that we have the resources to amplify and have teachers teach teachers and begin to disseminate this very quickly throughout the world. So that's part of our process and our logic in actually getting this out. So I wanted to give you a little perspective on what it would take to fulfill the vision. And very, very quickly, as people start to adapt this, we have programs and modules created that we can actually help support people at home, treating themselves even. We have some techniques called still point inducers. You can do this at home even without the aid of a therapist or further training. But for more involved training, you can learn how to do this on yourself and enjoy the benefits of this process at home. We also have modules that we can work with people that visit at home so that people can age in place. And we also have modules, and we're working with several people right now around the country and doing this, where this can be implemented in senior centers and nursing homes. So at every level of senior care, we have modules to deliver this service. So I'm very excited about sharing with you some of the other aspects of our thought and research on this, but wanted to share with you our vision of the future. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening.